In this week's Stompy 51 miniature adventure, I'm going to share with you the Nazgob Orc Shaman that I have recently spruced up for Warhammer in the Old World, and read to you a beautiful article from a 2009 Games Workshop White Dwarf magazine where they talk about what the thinking behind him was. And I'll also share with you kind of what I'm generally doing with other games and bits and bobs, which actually I don't mention, but I have been painting up some Skaven because I've bought Blood Bowl 3rd edition. But anyway. So an Orc Shaman is a living conduit to the gods of their kind. Gork, famed for being brutal, but cunning. And Mork, equally famed for being cunning, but brutal. These strange creatures wield great magical power drawn not just from the winds of magic, but from the power of belief generated by their kin. As a result, shamans do whatever they can to increase the fervour of those around them, siphoning off this metaphysical energy. Consequently, Orc shamans are strange individuals that prance and gesticulate wildly, gibbering and chanting. Whilst orcs enjoy such displays, many enemies find them extremely disconcerting. And this is my Orc Shaman. He sat quite badly painted from 7th edition in a box, all bashed up and, well, just rotting really, because you never needed that many Orc Shamans. I've already got an Orc Shaman mounted on a boar, but the thing is he's not really suitable for sitting in Orc units because he could just pile drive out and just charge on his own because of Impetuous, as I understand it. And so I thought I'd pull this guy out as an infantry shaman and plonk him in my unit of Black Orcs, or in my upcoming and slowly being painted unit of normal Orc boys, which you may have seen in another video. And it very much was a bit of an art restoration piece because I'd actually done a reasonable job on the staff. So that only needed a little bit of tidying up, washing and highlighting. Although I don't know what I was thinking. It shows how much little I know of biology that I painted this gristle, this kind of brownish black colour. I think it's exactly the same colour as the rest of the bone. But you know what? Who cares? Maybe it's some kind of fungal growth. Was it a good idea to paint the lip purple? I imagined him having spent a lifetime of eating strange mushrooms and drinking strange potions, and it's having coloured his lip. And I remembered how in all the Paul Bonner art, the lips are pink or purple, and it seems to work out just fine. But I think I might have made it a little bit too light. But now I can't be bothered. This isn't the original sword, which I thought I'd lost and then found subsequently. But actually, this sword is exactly the same, just a bit bigger, from the 2000s plastic Orc sprue. I am struggling a bit these days with bronzy gold colours. It doesn't really look like I've highlighted it, even though I have. But then again, all that glints is not gold, but gold glints enough on its own, I think. And I didn't spend a huge amount of time on this, the usual, an hour and a half or something, as a bit of a restoration project. Because, as I've mentioned a few times, I go for good enough and not perfect. Because, ultimately these are just going to sit on the table in a few games. They don't need to be Golden Demon winning. Not that I could ever even achieve that. And there's all this sort of little wizarding paraphernalia over there. And of course, I have great fun these days using basic materials to take things to the next level. They can take an average paint scheme and project it beyond into the realistic and funky. Anyway, let's have a look at one reason why I pulled him out. Because a mate gave me this old white dwarf, and it had the Citadel Hall of Fame article in it. The Citadel Hall of Fame is a collection of the best miniatures in the world, nominated by the people who know best, the artists, figure painters, and designers themselves. So you've got Keith Robertson. Not that I don't remember who he was. This is a 2008 magazine. 2009 magazine. I've been in heavy metal for over 10 years now, okay, a painter. Seen thousands of models come through, painted hundreds myself. With so many to choose from, I made 3 shortlists based on which models I like, which figures I enjoy painting, and which ones are in my own collection. One model that cropped up in all of these different lists was Brian Nelson's Orc Shaman, which I've just shown you. It's a model worthy of nomination because it has stood the test of time. The Shaman was first released in April 1997, over 12 years ago. But if Brian had sculpted it last week, it wouldn't look out of place against the outstanding models we are producing today. And if I may be so bold, it is still in that league, even in the world of plastics, frankly, especially in the world of plastics. But I haven't chosen it just because of personal preference. It's a seminal model in its own right, as it marked a new orc aesthetic. Brian's orcs are instantly recognizable with their jutting lower jaws, hulking shoulders, and rounded postures. The Shaman, along with an orc warlord and the current range of boar boys, another testament to Brian's timeless design, with the first of a new look that has informed all our greenskin designs to the present day, both for orcs and orcs, i.e. 40k. Suddenly, greenskins became less comical and far more dangerous, more bestial. Now, some people still prefer that kind of wacky look. But actually, I'm fine with it having moved on, and it'll be relevant in a moment. The Shaman model in particular encapsulates these features, which is why it's a favourite of painters. For instance, Neil Green has just finished painting one in his spare time, shown below. The design of the model really lends itself to a great paint job. The carved bone staff, the posture, the bag of casting bones, so that's what it is, all add up to make this a classic figure. The Shaman carries a bag of bones on his back, no doubt for use in primitive rituals or divinations, and actually it's quite useful. I wasn't really sure. I couldn't tell if this was a bone or part of the bag with a bit of a bone sticking out, because I can't see how a bag would work with that, unless it's a roll of bones stuck over it. Anyway, I made the right choice in the end. The Shaman's giant bone staff, from the way it is held to the intricate details carved into its surface, is a thing of beauty. It absolutely is, and very much the star of the miniature, along with the face. So they didn't go for mad green lip. The Shaman's grim visage with the close set eyes and nose, drawn top lip, and jutting lower jaw helps redefine the look of orcs for years to come. As well as all manner of pouches, the Shaman also has an amulet adorned with fetishes and talismans to aid him channel the power of the Wah. So is mine too bad? See, basically it is the same chopper, which means they must have modelled it, the plastic one, to be based on this one. Yeah. I could have gone into a bit more detail in my fetishes and talismans, but they are tiny, so who cares? So this is Brian, must be Brian Nelson. I must admit, it's been a while since I last looked at this model in any real detail. 12 years is a long time, so trying to remember some of the design and thought processes behind it is a real stretch. I do remember that I wanted to try and make him look old, so I denoted that by giving him only one tooth, while other orc mouths are usually crammed with teeth. I remember that from Gorkamorka, where sort of teeth are the currency and they keep bashing each other in the mouth. I wanted him to look a bit ravaged, as if he's had a constant battle to try and control the Wa energies that play around him. Although he was one of my early models to be released, oh wow, the orc look that came about during this period wasn't exactly started by this model. Oh, what a humble guy. I'd just take the credit, frankly. I seem to remember sculpting some big uns first. Okay, he has. And he evolved from them. The only reason I ended up sculpting so many orcs was because Alan Merritt gave me a second chance at doing a monster. The first orc I ever did was atrocious, and I didn't think they'd ever let me do it again. But Alan said to have another go. So I tried again and seemed to crack it, coming up with a design that everyone has been happy with ever since. And these are some orc boys. But I can't remember if you can still buy these, but I have a box with them because I actually painted up mine, but then decided that they don't really fit in with my current orc army. And I have tried to sell these or swap these, and no one has been interested. Or some people have only been interested to basically pay as if I hadn't painted them at all. I mean, I'm not saying these are brilliant, but, you know, surely. So I've decided to hold on to them until I can swap them for loads of dwarves or something like that. It's always worthwhile doing this checkered pattern on the orky shields, but I can't always be bothered. And I just smeared some blood on it. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm sure there's an 8th one. There it is. Or maybe I'll just keep them and use them in like, what's it called? Where they have a smaller base size now. Kings of War. And apropos of nothing, last Saturday night, I actually played a game of Halo Fleet Battles because I've increasingly started taking the view that it's all well and good to collect what you're passionate about, but if no one will play it with you, then there's no real point. You're just like some kind of mad old guy just collecting stuff in his loft, in his attic. And so if someone is passionate about something and they say, oh, I've got this and no one will play with me, if it's borderline something I might be interested in, I'll have a go. And who doesn't like sort of deep space kind of battles? And so I played this game, Halo Fleet Battles, and it was a really slick rule system. It reminded me of the kind of Kings of War or the other Mantic systems where they do try and keep it simple but interesting with tactical decisions. And they had their own bespoke dice. They had like a kind of a resource allocation set of special command dice, which again is something Kings of War does, I think, now. As well as, I think, Saga Age of Magic. Maybe a bit more like Saga Age of Magic. You know, different commanders have, you roll different bespoke dice, and you then can use some of the faces of the dice to give you special commander capabilities. And it was really, really fun. It was initially a little bit basic, but then we realized it was because we weren't playing with the wings, as they're called, like space fighters, or you can launch these like little boarding ships, which is like a bit of hand-to-hand combat. And so we then played a second game because I said, look, we're 2/3 of the way through the first game. It's obvious how it's going to go. You've got some massive ship in there. It's broadly the same point as all my ships. Let's have a bit of a go. And I mean, you can see these are both, I can't even remember what they're called. They're not the USMC, whatever they're called. They're not the humans. They're the Confederation of Crazed Religious Aliens, whatever they're called. I never used to play Halo as a kid. That's way after my time, which in itself is quite a funny thing because this guy is probably half my age, and for him, this was like an emotional thing from his childhood playing all these computer games, whereas for me, I used to watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, whatever, which I don't think would speak to him very much. Anyway, so we had a fun second game where I realised, well, about half of the second game, where I realised that massive ship, a bit like X-Wing, it's split up into kind of different parts. It's impossible to destroy. But we had fun. I'd play it again. The only issue is that Spartan Games, which makes it, has gone bust. And so there's no way that anyone can go buy it, not least because people who do have a set seem to recognise that it goes for quite a lot on eBay. I do have piles of X-Wing, though, which is a lot more complicated than this, but I would call that granular. And as I've played this, well, maybe I'll persuade him to play X-Wing. Then some guys came around the other night and brought Dungeons and Dragons, which they'd been playing with their kids, and they told me that this wasn't like a role-playing game as such. It was more constrained, aimed at 12 plus, and it's basically a dungeon crawler. And so there were three of us. One was a dwarf, that was me, someone was a rogue, and an elf or a knight or whatever that thing was. I'm not really familiar with the character types for Dungeons and Dragons. I've never really been interested in role-playing. I know that it involves creativity and cooperation and chatting and stuff, but I'm all about the art and the little miniatures with terrifying faces and big choppers. Anyway, so the issue was that you would have a chance at moving, and then the NPCs would sort of turn up, these monsters, and it was all supposed to be random, and you would keep putting tiles down to kind of explore. But the thing is, our objective was to kill 20 of these creatures. It's supposed to take 45 minutes and be a kind of constrained, limited game. But the third monster that we pulled was a Chardalon the dragon, who's like the major villain of the entire game. So we ended up sort of hammering and fighting and hammering and fighting, mostly him. And we did kill him, but by the time we'd done that, one of us was dead. And if one of you dies, the game's basically over. Because it's for kids, they've got this little functionality where you can have an extra... The first two people to die get an extra 4 kind of life points. But it didn't really help us because the Chardalon had worn us down. And by the time we killed him, one of us died, and that was over. But who needs a Chardalon when you've got Nazgob and his magical staff, hopefully coming to a Warhammer in the Old World game for you soon. Anyway, do subscribe if you haven't already to help me get this out there. Thank you for watching to the end. I appreciate it. And I love your comments. You see I always reply. And I hope to see you all around soon. Cheers.